Well, new developments as we come on air this Tuesday, a day where we saw Law Society of Kenya and the Marketing and the Media Council of Kenya condemning arbitrary arrest of citizens who were protesting earlier today. All that coming up. It is 9 p.m. East African. Good evening, I'm Mboya, and welcome to this live broadcast, which begins right now with our top stories. From the smooth online streets to the rough city streets, keyboard warriors engage anti-riot police in day-long protests against Finance Bill 2024.
We need to protect Kenyans from increased cost of living, and therefore the proposed 16% VAT on bread has been dropped. To support again on reducing the cost of living, we are doing something about vegetable oil so that we do not make it expensive for Kenyans. Transfer of mobile services is a key concern to many Kenyans, and therefore again we have proposed that we do not have any increase on taxation or mobile phone transfer.
Bowing to public pressure, Parliamentary Finance Committee proposes a raft of amendments to the Tax Bill 2024 ahead of Wednesday's debate.
We cannot have a secure country without a secure judiciary. When one of us is unsafe, we are all exposed.
Chief Justice Martha Koome commits to enhancing security of members of the bench as she leads in the mourning of slain Makadara magistrate Monica Kivuti. Lucy Mora is our sign language interpreter. Speak to us on our social platforms, on all the social media handles at KBC Channel 1. Let us know what you think about our stories. Now, a section of Kenyans engaged the riot police in a running battle at the Nairobi Central Business District Tuesday to oppose the Finance Bill 2024, which they termed as punitive and draconian. Plans by the protesters to access Parliament were, however, thwarted by the police, who were deployed on all major streets leading to Parliament. But unlike other past anti-government protests, conspicuously missing were the faces of politicians. And as Timothy Kipnusu opens our coverage tonight, 2 police officers were injured, one seriously, after a tear gas canister exploded in one of the police officers' hands.
Nairobi Central Business District was a no-go zone on Tuesday. Running battles between riot police and protesters opposing the Finance Bill 2024 disoriented the planned demos dubbed Occupy Parliament. The police were forced to lobby tear gas canisters on the adamant demonstrators, who kept on regrouping. Several protesters were arrested during the melee, among them some journalists.
They say they're arresting me. They're not telling me for what reason.
Organizers of the protest had advised participants to dress in black. Those who heeded the dress code call, however, became an easy target for the police. The protesters took issue with the police for not allowing Kenyans to exercise their right of holding protest peacefully.
Hiyo bill sio sawa. Tumeorganize hii demonstration nyingine kama watu wanabunge, na tunasema tutangangana nao hadi wa Kenya wapata malilio yao.
We reject the finance bill in totality. Finance bill 2024 must be amended.
I've not spoken about this, but now I have to speak about it. I'm not happy with what is going on, because taxes is not the way to lead a country.
They, however, urged the MPs to reject the Finance Bill 2024 in totality.
And we want to urge our MPs that they vote no to this Finance Bill.
And I want to ask the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto,
Please consider the young people, consider the less fortunate, consider the people who are with disability.
The people who are dragging us in this hole are the government officials because they are not living according to our means.
Kama wananchi tunakataa hiyo juu hiyo maneno hatuoni kama ni mzuri. Hiyo uchumi inaongezwa inafinya ule mtu wa chini.
But on a sad note, a police officer was seriously injured after tear gas exploded in his hands. His colleagues sustained minor injuries. Both are recuperating at Nairobi West Hospital. The Tuesday protest coincided with the tabling of the contentious bill in Parliament. Unlike other past anti-government protests, this time round politicians were conspicuously missing in action.
A section of Kenyans who took to the streets on Tuesday protesting against the Finance Bill 2024 are now calling on the members of Parliament to shoot it down, saying the bill is draconian. Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition, Nairobi.
Of course, that's a story that we'll be tracking for you. And now the Law Society of Kenya, Media Council of Kenya, and other key stakeholders have condemned the arbitrary arrest and attacks on citizens who were protesting against the Finance Bill 2024. On its part, the Media Council of Kenya has called on the Inspector General of Police to rein in on his officers by ensuring that journalists are protected and that they are not targeted for harassment while performing their duties in any working environment. Give us on minor reports.
At the Nairobi Central Business District, protesters calling for the rejection of the Finance Bill 2024 are seen being arrested and bundled into police cars and whisked away to police station. At the Central Police Station, protesters said to be in their hundreds can be heard chanting anti-Finance Bill 2024 songs. Lawyers from the Law Society of Kenya who are trying to negotiate their release, saying the arrest is contrary to Article 37 of the Constitution, which states that every person has the right to peaceably and unarmed demonstrate, picket, assemble and present petitions to public authorities.
And as LSK, we are going to take a very stern position, just like the statement that was made today by our president. It is the same thing that they're going to do. We are going to monitor. If nothing is going to be done, we are going to the court against the IG and more specifically Central Police.
Right now we do not know what they are charged where they are charged with because they have not been booked. And that is it's a serious offense. When you come to the police station, the first thing they're supposed to book you, but they have not done that. And that's why they are going to purport they have released them. It's because they have held them illegally there.
It's important for the government to listen to its own people, not to torture, not to arrest over 100 people. It defeats common sense that they're doing this. And the worst thing is that we have lawyers here who are here to ensure that these people get bail and are released. But if you see what they're going through as lawyers, this is totally inhuman.
6 lawyers are also said to have been arrested amidst the protest in the Nairobi CBD.
Very sad that those advocates were arrested when they were trying to save the members of the press who are being harassed by the police at the Supreme Court area. And they tried to secure their release. Unfortunately, they were arrested together with some of the members of the public and put here in custody.
However, after mounting pressure online, one of the popular online activists, Hanifa Safia Adan, was finally released with condition not to speak to the press. Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni's son was also among those arrested.
They have held very many young people here. We wanted them released on, even if it's on cash bail, but they are not ready to entertain any of us. This is not about a good thing for this country. It's completely against the provision of our constitution. And I call upon all lawyers of goodwill, old and young, to come and take up these matters.
LSK has threatened to take legal action against Nairobi Police Commander Adamson Bungei for disrupting peaceful demonstrations and arbitrary arrests. Media Council of Kenya, through a statement, have also condemned the arbitrary, harassing and manhandling of journalists in the line of duty. MCK in their statement saying, and I quote, "Today's unfortunate events remind us that members of the National Police Service remain the weak link in the Kenya's quest for freedom of expression and freedom of the media as espoused in the Constitution." End of quote. They want Inspector General of Police to ensure journalists are protected and not targeted for harassment while performing their duties in any working environment. Give us minor Prime Edition.
There was an observation on the demonstration Tuesday against that finance bill. It was characterized by young people who mobilized themselves using the social media or the digital square, if you like. And that obviously is a clear shift. Unlike the previous demonstrations led by politicians with pockets of hooligans armed with stones and crude weapons, the protest had a new crop of mainly English-speaking young people ready to engage the police officers on their alleged rights. Alvin Kaunda was there and captured the following images.
Their mobilization kicked off on Monday through social media, some even tagging their legislators, warning them they were their employers and watching their moves on the finance bill. The self-proclaimed keyboard warriors using all social media spaces to whip up and showcase their cause.
We have a voice and we're here to use it. That's why we are demonstrating today, to show that without mincing our words, the youth of Kenya strongly reject the finance bill as it stands today.
The mobilization used hashtag Occupy Parliament and Reject Finance Bill, some too countering the call with hashtag Ruto Listens. And on Tuesday, a new crop of demonstrators took over the streets of the city with no politician rallying them, no Tibim or Tialala, but polished English and phones even to live stream themselves, taking advantage of the free Wi-Fi in the city.
I actually have it in my bag and the bills are crazy, taxation on medication.
I understand very well what is going on in the finance bill, and I know that we've borrowed from the IMF so that we can pay the Eurobond and the Chinese.
Nimesoma na kuelewa, lakini sasa katika ile mikakati ambao wameiweka ni kama inaenda kuaffect, inaenda kunyanyanza.
Even in the police vehicles, they were taking selfies, oblivious of what awaited them.
With majority of the demonstrators being young people, they say they will not rest until the finance bill, which they term as impunitive and ridiculous, is either revised or put down. Reporting for KBC Channel 1, I'm Alvin Kaunda.
While all those events, the street protests unfolded in the streets of Nairobi, what was the Finance Committee saying? They were proposing in their report an increase in the Railway Development Fund and the import declaration fee by 1% each to fill the deficit after removal of some of the proposed taxes in the 2024 Finance Bill. Addressing the media after tabling the report Tuesday, National Assembly Finance and National Planning Committee Chair Kimani Kuria said that the bill will manage to finance the budget by 320 billion shillings. This comes as debate on the report is set to begin Wednesday in the morning. The fate of the bill will be determined next week. Here's that report.
Unlike the norm, members of Parliament on Tuesday afternoon turned up in their numbers for the afternoon sitting in anticipation of the tabling of the Finance Bill 2024 report.
Honourable members, we have quorum to transact business.
The report, which was tabled later Tuesday afternoon.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, the 18th of June, 2024. The report on the Parliamentary Committee on Finance and National Planning on its consideration of the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2024.
Now leaves the ball in the legislators' court as Kenyans continue to push for the amendments of the contentious clauses in the Finance Bill 2024.
I encourage each and every honourable member to get the report either from the table office physically or on the parliamentary web, read through it properly.
But even after the removal of the said contentious taxes, Finance Committee Chair Kimani Kuria says the budget will still be financed.
I have said Railway Development Levy increased by 1 percentage point, IDF increased by 1 percentage point, and reduction on tax expenditures.
With the report now in the hands of the legislators, debate is set to kick off Wednesday morning. MPs resolving to sit on Thursday morning to conclude on debate ahead of afternoon sitting.
I have directed the clerk that the closure for submitting amendments will be on Thursday at 1 p.m. So those of you who want to file an amendment upon reading the report and the bill, ensure that you file your amendments at or before Thursday, 1 p.m.
Voting on the bill is set to take place next week. Kamchemenza for Prime Edition.
Now, in a press briefing before tabling its report, the National Assembly Finance Committee had moved to scrap proposed taxes on bread, vegetable oils, motor vehicles, money transfer and eco-levy in the wake of the public pressure that we had seen on those earlier stories on the contents of the 2024 finance bill. The committee said that they had listened to the voices of the people and had proposed changes to the bill aimed at easing the tax burden on Kenyans. The announcement was made following a parliamentary group meeting at State House, Nairobi, in the presence of the President and his deputy. Our reporter Abdiaziz Hashim now examines the impact of those proposed changes on economists. As economists, one Treasury now faces the Herculean task of meeting the budget deficit should MPs approve those amendments.
As early as 7 a.m., Kenya Kwanza allied legislators converged at State House Nairobi for a parliamentary group meeting. Top on the agenda was a review of the Finance Bill 2024 following the completion of a public participation exercise by MPs. Led by President William Ruto, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, and a host of MPs, the leaders emerged from the meeting to announce proposed changes to the bill in a statement read by the Finance Committee Chair Kuria Kimani.
One of them is that we need to protect Kenyans from increased cost of living, and therefore the proposed 16% VAT on bread has been dropped. To support again on reducing the cost of living, we are doing something about vegetable oil so that we do not make it expensive for Kenyans. Transfer of mobile services is a key concern to many Kenyans, and therefore again we have proposed that we do not have any increase on taxation on mobile phone transfer.
Kuria stated the decision to scrap some of the levies followed a public participation exercise in which stakeholders expressed their reservations on some of the proposals to raise revenue.
We've had Mama Mbogas who do their supplies to hotels being asked to register for eTIMS. We have proposed that these people be given exemption on eTIMS registration.
Similar sentiments were echoed by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah.
We are devoting more money back into people's pockets, especially the employed Kenyans who have been contributing to the housing levy. The housing levy has been proposed together with the Social Health Insurance Fund, the National Social Security Fund, and now the housing levy to be tax deductible.
However, the committee did not delve into details on how to meet the budget deficit that was placed at 3.3% of the country's GDP in the bill.
So here you are, and then you have dropped certain measures. Definitely means that you may perhaps collect less and leaving a huge deficit on the budget side. And in terms of options, then it calls for us looking again at that budget and saying what areas could we perhaps chop.
Tax pundits say if the proposals by the committee are approved by Parliament, then the National Treasury will have to go back to the drawing board. According to Alex Kanyi, a tax expert, Treasury has limited options should the changes sail through on how to meet its 4 trillion shilling budget presented by CS Njuguna Ndogo.
So where are you going to get 1.5 trillion to support the budget if you are to leave it as it is? Clearly, you're telling us that you're going to borrow.
The report, which was tabled in the House, will now be debated and, if approved, could inform changes to the Finance Bill 2024, whose debate is scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday this week in the National Assembly. Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
Well, the manufacturing sector is amongst the gainers on those proposed amendments in the Finance Bill 2024. Regina Manyara has put together a story which gives us more details. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we'll be looking at that and a lot more. Stay with us.
August 1979, President Daniel Arap Moi officially opened the Moi International Airport in Mombasa. This has become the leading entrance of international direct tourist flights from abroad with all services and facilities to match its new role.
Asanteni sana kwa kuwezesha Lotomoto kuwafikia wengi wasiojiweza kupitia *570#. Hapo umewafuta wengi machozi, umewaelimisha, umewapa makao, umewapa lishe na umewapa matibabu kwa namna tofauti. Asanteni.
Asanteni. Asanteni sana.
Na kwako wewe mchezaji wa Lotomoto, unajipa fursa ya kujishindia Probox nayo. Na kama Probox haikufai na umejishindia, tunakupa taslim 750,000 Kenyan shillings na mshindi na mtangaza 30th of June. Na mwezi wa July 28th na mtangaza mshindi wa Demio nayo. Na kama utaki na umeshinda, wacha gari, chukua chapa 750,000 Kenyan shillings kwenye *570#. Wewe si mshindi tu, wewe ni tegemeo kubwa. Tusaidie na tushinde!
Nilianza kuendesha boda miaka michache iliyopita ili kuhudumia familia yangu. Sio kazi rahisi, lakini inaweka chakula mezani. Wakati huo nilifikiria siwezi kushindwa. Ningeendesha boda kwa kasi, kukwepa na kuvuka barabara ovyo. Ningefanya chochote ili kufika napokwenda haraka. Lakini siku moja nilikuwa hospitalini kwa miezi 3. Kosa moja karibu liondoe kila kitu. Mwaka moja baada ya kutoka hospitalini, nilihudhuria mafunzo ya jinsi ya kuendesha boda kwa usalama. Boda ni life, lakini life si kitu bila usalama. Zingatia kanuni za trafiki. Hakikisha unavaa helmet na reflector jacket wakati wote.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Welcome back to Prime Edition, our socials at KBC Channel 1. Now, what does Azimio think about all this finance bill? The members of Parliament in Azimio have rejected the Finance Bill 2024, terming it detrimental to the economy. The MPs who held a parliamentary gathering in Parliament this evening resolved to vote against the Finance Bill on Thursday, led by the leader of the minority, Opiah Wandayi. The MPs claimed that the amendment proposed at the State House during the Kenya Kwanza parliamentary meeting earlier on in the day was a public relations exercise.
We also demand the outright dropping of the proposal by the Transport Cabinet Secretary to increase fuel levy by Kenya shillings 9 per litre. We are against this idea that transport, which includes the movement of goods and people, is some kind of luxury that this country can do without. Without movement of goods and people, we have no economy to talk about. As a coalition, we reject the entire bill. Yes. 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 And demand its total withdrawal.
Congress power.
Vitu wameweka vitu nyingi wameficha huko ndani. Halafu wanatudanganya ati sasa wametoa zile watu walikuwa wanapigania kelele. Tafadhali hatujakubali na tutakataa na mpaka watafanya kile Wakenya wanataka.
We resist, we refuse, and whatever they say from today onwards is null and void. Let them just make noise.
Now, the local manufacturing sector is among the gainers of the proposed amendment bill to the Finance Bill 2024 after exemption of the eco-levy on locally manufactured goods, including packaging materials, batteries, the ones that we use, the hygienic products as well. However, brewers and alcohol distillers will pay excise duty on alcoholic beverages on the basis of alcohol content and not the volume. Here's Regina Manyara with a comparative analysis on the would-be impact if the proposed amendments are adopted.
The Kenya Association of Manufacturers, in its submissions to the National Planning and Finance Committee and the Finance Bill 2024, argued that the eco-levy was a duplicate of existing levy mandated under extended producer responsibility schemes that would likely reverse Kenya's initiatives to create a circular economy.
Still a mandatory requirement in Kenya, and what we are saying is that, there are no guarantees that even that 50 billion is going to be allocated purely to NEMA and the county government so that they're able to collect that waste in the environment.
According to the manufacturers, eco-levy, if enacted, would have nearly doubled the packaging cost by 100% in cases where the cost of the raw materials is equal to the proposed levy. For instance, a bar of soap used for washing clothing, utensils and bathing would increase from 170 shillings to approximately 270 shillings.
Cement, detergents, eco-levy. Look at the batteries. Your car battery is 12 kgs. The cost, 8,500. The levy now, 9,000.
However, the proposed exemption provides a buffer against imports and is likely to spur uptake of locally produced goods.
Imposing this on locally manufactured goods would again increase the cost of those locally manufactured goods in the country and stand a risk of making them not competitive in the East African market and globally. Therefore, this eco-levy will only be chargeable to imported finished products.
As such, locally manufactured products including sanitary towels, diapers, phones, computers, tires and motorcycles will not attract the eco-levy. On the other hand, the cost of spirits and liqueurs is likely to increase after the committee maintained that alcoholic beverages will now be taxed on basis of alcohol content and not volume.
Therefore, those alcohol manufacturers that are producing alcohol of very high content will now be required to pay higher duty because based on the alcohol content, and those making alcohol of lower content now will pay less duty.
The higher the alcohol content, the more excess duty it will attract. The courier-led team has also imposed excess duty on imported table eggs, onions and potatoes.
It makes our onions, our eggs and our potatoes more marketable to us and the region.
A welcome move to farmers, but consumers will continue to shoulder the high cost of production. However, the proposals remain as proposals till tabled, debated, voted and adopted by Parliament and assented to for implementation. Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
Well, the history of citizens' participation in the budget process has really been gradual. The public participation and involvement of the legislative process and other business of Parliament and its committees is espoused in the Constitution under Article 118B. It's against this backdrop that Kenyans and sector players who previously appeared to play a very passive role in the budget-making process departed from tradition, choosing to instead be robustly involved in that process. So tonight, our reporter Trevor Ngendo took some time and now he sheds light on the 2024 budget-making process that saw citizens, this time around, heavily involved.
The 2024-2025 budget-making process will perhaps go down in history as one that attracted discourse among Kenyans, giving impetus to Articles 118 and 196 of the Constitution that requires Parliament and county assemblies to facilitate public participation and involvement of the citizens in the legislative process.
We do not want our senior citizens to miss out in the Inua Jamii program, because if then we transfer 2,000 shillings to them, but every interaction of using the 2,000 becomes very costly to them.
Kisha ya kwamba iko tax free, so that this child akipata mkati, a bite, can go to school.
It's already difficult. We are not getting jobs, so we have opted for online. Now, introducing this will make life very difficult for us.
In an unprecedented move, Kenyans used various digital platforms to conduct civic education campaigns on the specifics of the finance bill. A digital campaign that would end with a section of Kenyans pouring onto the streets, demanding to have their voices incorporated in proposals to the Finance Committee. A push that prompted the Finance Committee chair to share details of the committee's recommendations prior to tabling the report in Parliament.
That public participation would not be an exercise in futility. We have listened to the view of Kenyans, and we are all in agreement that there are two things that we must do.
As the debate on the bill moves to Parliament, it is not lost that this year's budget-making process is one that ignited a citizen consciousness on governance. The Finance Committee received over 700 written submissions, and various stakeholders, including unions, institutions and associations, making time to submit their views on the bill that will guide government's expenditure and revenue-generating plans. Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition.
Let's now get an update on the story of the judicial officer, Honorable Monica Kivuti, who lost her life in the line of duty last week. Chief Justice Martha Koome is tonight committing to ensure that the safety of court premises, judges, judicial officers, and staff in the course of their duties is guaranteed. Speaking during a special ceremony held at Makadara Law Courts to mourn and celebrate the life of Honorable Monica Kivuti, the President of the Judiciary noted that the tragic accident had exposed and amplified Judiciary's long-held security concerns, a situation that must be remedied. Ruth Mboya attended the two memorials held at Milimani and the other one at Makadara Law Courts, and this is the report that she filed.
Makadara Law Court. It is here that one of the most tragic incidents to face the judiciary was witnessed. The shooting of Principal Magistrate Monica Kivuti while on duty last Thursday afternoon, exposing security challenges that the officers of the court face.
We cannot have a secure country without a secure judiciary. When one of us is unsafe, we are all exposed.
And on Tuesday, Chief Justice Martha Koome dedicated the day in her remembrance. A somber mood engulfed the Makadara Law Courts as family, friends, and the judicial fraternity gathered to mourn the fallen magistrate.
Soon after the nullification of the 2017 election petition, if I was in my car, I would be dead because some stupid Kenyan shot at the car and asked my driver, "Ako wapi mama?"
A somber mood engulfed the Makadara Law Courts as family, friends, and the judicial fraternity gathered to mourn the fallen magistrate. Chief Justice Martha Koome said her office is engaging the executive, Parliament, and the Inspector General of Police to deploy additional officers to reinforce security.
When a magistrate or a judge sits in a tent every day, which message is being sent out there? Does that tent carry any sense of authority?
No forces and powers of darkness will fight this place.
And in a symbolic ceremony, men of cloth cleansed the spot, praying to God to protect the judicial officers and shield them from such occurrences in the future.
This ground is sanctified.
Kivuti was shot on June 13th by an OCS from Londiani after delivering a ruling concerning his wife. Makadara Law Court will remain closed until next week. Safety, safety, and more safety is the million-dollar key message that reverberated in all courts across the country as the judiciary held vigilance for the fallen Principal Magistrate Monica Kivuti. Ruth Wamboi reporting from Makadara Law Courts.
Meanwhile, court proceedings across the country were suspended in honor of the life of the fallen Principal Magistrate of Makadara, Monica Kivuti, who was shot, as reported, in an active court proceeding, donned in purple ribbons, which they will wear until the late Honorable Kivuti is laid to rest. Judicial officers, beg your pardon, across the country called for the bolstering of security of all officers of the court, especially the ones in line of duty. Irene Muchuma Odim with that story.
These pictures were replicated across the country as officers of the court came together in honor of the fallen Makadara Principal Magistrate, Monica Kivuti. In Homa Bay, Chief Magistrate Jacinta Orwa reiterated calls to improve security of all judicial officers.
Security is very key to all of us because we deal with people from all walks of life.
At the Limuru Law Courts, the Senior Principal Magistrate Jared Magori led officials from the Judiciary Kiambu chapter in an intercession ceremony in honor of Honorable Kivuti. Persons who had turned up at the Limuru Court for judicial services were, however, turned away.
Tungeomba Mungu aweke roho yake mahali pema peponi.
At the Kiambu Law Courts, judicial officers eulogized the late Kivuti as a dedicated and loving colleague who was passionate with her duties.
I just ask all of us to just pray for the family of Honorable Kivuti.
In Embu, staff at the courts held a peaceful walk in honor of the late Monica Kivuti.
And probably it's a wake-up call to the Judicial Service Commission to ensure that security for the judicial officers is ensured.
Meanwhile, in Kisii, residents were urged to obey the Constitution and avoid taking the law into their own hands. While mourning the late Kivuti, Justice Sila Munyao said court rulings should be respected.
Irrespective of the nature of the decision made, the avenue of any individual who is aggrieved by such decision is not to take the law into his or her own hands.
In Mombasa, staff at the Mombasa High Court lit candles and placed flowers on the side of the late Kivuti's portrait in her honor. Mombasa High Court presiding judge Olga Sewe terming the death of Honorable Kivuti as a big blow to the entire society.
We assure the consumers of justice that our security going forward will be taken very seriously.
Irene Mchuma Odim, the Prime Edition.
Sports and Arts Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba on Tuesday attended the inaugural Recording Academy Africa Steering Committee meeting in Kigali, Rwanda. The meeting sets the stage for the establishment of a Grammy Recording Academy in Africa. The CS emphasized the importance of the gathering of African music and culture, describing the occasion as a pivotal moment in African music history.
The Cabinet Secretary for Youth Affairs, Sports and the Arts, Ababu Namwamba, on Tuesday took part in the inaugural Recording Academy Africa Steering Committee in a significant gathering that sets the stage for the establishment of a Grammys Recording Academy in Africa. It's here that the CS noted that the initiative's presence in Africa was long overdue.
Kenya acknowledges that this initiative is poised to offer significant benefits to our creatives, notably in skill development, local talent cultivation, music infrastructure investment, increased international exposure, collaboration opportunities, and the stimulation of the entire creative economy, given the continent's rich musical heritage and its substantial influence on the global music culture.
The CS praised the Recording Academy as a monumental step that provides a platform for Kenya to strategize and implement initiatives to propel its music on the global stage.
As Kenya, we are really filled with optimism for what lies ahead. The African music industry is poised for greatness, and with our collective efforts, we can ensure that our artists receive the recognition and the opportunities they deserve. It is imperative that we embark on a journey that prioritizes creativity and cements it as the cornerstone of the African economy. Let us boldly envision our future, unleashing fearless creativity to foster innovation and fuel boundless imagination.
Kenya, South Africa, Rwanda, and Nigeria will form the backbone in the actualization of a Recording Academy in the continent.
Unajua, token meter yako inahitaji system update. Ni rahisi na ni free. Ukipata ujumbe kutoka Kenya Power, yani SMS, weka kodi ya kwanza kureset, alafu weke kodi ya pili kuupdate ili token meter yako iendelee kufanya kazi kama kawaida. Update token meter yako. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Kenya Power and Lighting Company.
Kikohozi cha muda wowote, kutokwa na jasho kwa wingi usiku, uchungu kwenye kifua, afya kudhoofika, tafuta matibabu. Labda ni TB ni ugonjwa wa kweli. Ukipimwa matibabu yapo utapona. Daktari kushauri tumia dawa kwa nidhamu. Elimu tupashane tupige vita TB. Mwa TB waishi poa. Kikohozi cha muda wowote, kutokwa na jasho kwa wingi usiku, uchungu kwenye kifua, afya kudhoofika, tafuta matibabu.
He's loyal, but I believe he can be swayed.
Nitajua vile nitadeal na yeye.
Do you want to file a formal complaint?
And say what? That he held my hand.
Where is she? That sister of ours, Christabel.
Mwa TB waishi poa.
Let's now look at what we have in the business segment. County governments are urging the Kenya Revenue Authority to scrap the taxing of own source revenue at the current 16% if counties are to fully utilize their collections. Finance Planning and Economic Affairs Chairperson at the Council of Governors, Fernandez Barraza, says that it is in talks with the national government on how to address the issue.
Counties have a cumulative own source revenue collection potential of 216 billion shillings, but currently only collects around 45 billion shillings. This according to the latest Commission on Revenue Allocation Studies. The focus is now on various strategies to help counties bolster their revenue to optimum levels.
When counties are able to collect their own source revenue, which supports the budget, then at the end of the year, they will not be having that animal we call pending bills.
This was revealed during the launch of the country's first ever tariffs and pricing policy for county governments by CRA. According to the report, 23 counties are using the defunct municipal bylaws to guide own source revenue collection.
There has been widespread complaints, as it has just been alluded, from traders, exporters and companies about high and unjustified charges, as well as the multiplicity of fees and charges across the country, and action was prompted by that.
All the 47 counties can now enact specific revenue streams and laws to facilitate all source revenue. It will also help us, of course, to bridge the gap that we've been having.
When you do these calculations, there's a need for government to also pay contribution in lieu of rates. These were last paid prior to devolution.
However, the government would also like to see accelerated adoption of policies that will see growth of local businesses and general trade.
I want to assure that the concerns that have been raised by the governors, these are issues that we can be able to look into for the benefit of each and every county.
I encourage county governments to expedite their adoption of the model swiftly and proceed to domesticate it to comply with Section 120 of the County Governments Act.
The new tariffs and pricing policy is meant to eliminate duplicity, multiplicity, undervaluation and overvaluation of county services, including the increase in transparency in revenue collection. Alanauko, Prime Edition.
Kenya continues making strides to ensure the full revitalization of the manufacturing sector through the Special Economic Zones. The Special Economic Zones Authority is touring the Naivasha Economic Zone to assess its progress after Jambo Africa Auto Auction Farm launched its operations in the zone. Frederick Moki is part of the tour and joins us with more.
The Naivasha Special Economic Zone is one of the most strategically positioned zones of the county due to its proximity to the inland container depot, the standard gauge railway, and the steady, cheaper, and green energy from the Olkaria well. Investors sitting base at the zone enjoy preferential corporate rates of 10% for the first 10 years, 15% for the next 10 years, and 30% for the next preceding years.
Special economic zones are not supposed to cannibalize other businesses outside the zone, okay? They're supposed to augment that. And again, from an authority perspective, we are very keen to see that we are having additional, we are actually creating more value and not cannibalizing our business outside the zone. So we welcome our investors. We will give you every support that is needed.
We are looking at getting into manufacturing in 2025. And this is an exciting opportunity. We've been glad to interact with the business association, with the Nakuru Business Association, to interact with the SEZA.
Investors want the government to expedite the completion of the Nakuru airport to improve connection between Nairobi and Nakuru counties.
There's absolutely no way you can have international investors investing in an area without an airport. Some of these guys, from my own interactions as chair of the business association, some of these guys only have 4 hours in a country. You know, I mean, that's how tight some of their diaries are. So if somebody has 4 hours, he doesn't want to use road, he wants to fly.
As government continues providing incentives to attract both local and international investors into the special economic zones, the Naivasha SEZ is touted as a game changer, bearing in mind its proximity to the standard gauge railway, its internal container depot, and availability of lower power tariffs. Reporting for Prime Edition from Naivasha, Nakuru County, my name is Frederick Mwoki.
The Food and Agriculture Organization is seeking 2.6 billion shillings to promote health in agri-food systems. FAO says part of the funds will go towards curbing drug resistance in animals that have become rampant in pigs, poultry, and dairy production, threatening human health.
Bacterial infection that is transmitted to humans through consumption of infected dairy products is estimated to cost the country over $500 billion shillings, both in missed revenue, health expenditure, and reduced productivity. The Food and Agriculture Organization says the country needs 2.6 billion shillings to heighten surveillance, equip testing labs, and improve other key interventions to promote food safety.
Surveillance, also reinforcing labs so that the equipment is there, the diagnostics are there, that also treatments also can be there eventually.
Poultry, pigs, and dairy subsectors are the most affected, with farmers encouraged to reduce the use of growth hormones.
HDUs are having something we call multi-drug resistance, and some of these could be driven all the way from animals and other drivers that have been identified, like overuse and misuse of these drugs.
The Kenya Veterinary Board has been challenged to enhance crackdown on quacks in the animal health and unlicensed agrovests to shield consumers from unsafe animal products.
Emphasizing the fact that the board should move out and get out to the field, be able to ensure that those who are handling our animals are registered persons.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
The Kenya Union of Special Needs Education Teachers has challenged the Teacher Service Commission to move with speed and implement the 2018 collective bargaining agreement in totality. The Union Secretary General James Torome said while parts of the agreement have been implemented, members have stagnated in the same job groups. Achola Simon with that report.
Special Needs Education Teachers won the 2018 collective bargaining agreement with the Teacher Service Commission implemented in total. The agreement, among others, secured promotion of its members and employment of additional teachers to address the acute shortage in the sector.
We are asking the Teacher Service Commission to move with the speed and review the career progression for the special needs education teachers, which have never been implemented since 2018.
You can see even from our counterpart, those are the teachers handling regular learners from our mainstream. Those who are promoted to administrative positions were taken very higher grades than the teachers handling learners in special school, and most of them have diploma and degree certificates.
The Teachers Union declared the continued stagnation of its members in the same group, despite having similar qualification with those attending to normal learners in regular schools.
Handling learners in special school is not a walk in the park. It's a very challenging activity that requires that teachers handling these learners are well motivated and remunerated in order to deliver their services very effectively.
They, however, hailed the Commission for employing at least 6,000 new teachers, a move they said will go a long way in addressing the acute teacher shortage experienced in the sector.
6,000 teachers have been deployed to the various schools. So the complaint for special needs schools should not be there.
They are also happy with the expansion of the bracket of teachers that qualify for special allowance.
Those who are using pairs of crutches, too, they will now be in that category where they will be earning a guidance allowance of 20,000, which they have never earned since they were employed by the Teacher Service Commission as a class. The second category, those who are engaged both hands while using a walking aid. But I'm also now advising our teachers, don't go and chop your hands for you to earn the 20,000.
The teachers spoke as they held a consultative meeting in Vihiga County.
Now, the Baku Initiative group within the framework of the non-aligned movement in Azerbaijan is calling on France to stop what it calls a neo-colonial policy and ensure that people of Kanaki freedom to determine their destiny. This and more in our county's news wrap.
Co-initiative group is also urging representatives of independence and nationalist movements, representatives and all related intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations to continue presenting the real situation in colonized regions to the global community. The remarks were made when the organization held several international events where political, economic and cultural consequences of the colonialism and violations of human rights in New Caledonia and other colonized regions were discussed.
And the governments and the organization, who is going to keep these people on check? What about equity? Equity, how are they going to distribute these resources? I'm talking about natural resources. Who keeps who in check?
When you don't have fight for your right, no one will stand or will come and fight for your right.
And the Principal Secretary of Broadcasting and Telecommunications, Professor Edward Kisiangani, has warned Kenyans against wanton destruction of trees, saying this could have a tremendous effect on the environment due to climate change.
Some of the rivers that were permanent 20, 30 years ago have become seasonal. I think that is the crisis. Now, what is the impact of this? If the ozone layer, for example, is damaged and it is perforated, the sun's rays come direct to our bodies, and what it's going to do is that governments in Africa are going to spend a lot of money on health care.
Elsewhere, the 64 billion shillings Thwake Dam project on the border of Kitui and Makueni counties has started taking shape after the completion of the Embankment Dam, which spans 1.5 kilometers across River Athi.
We are going to sort out the problems on food security. We're going to sort out problems of water, both domestic and livestock, and also we'll have that component of power. So
in Kirinyaga County, hundreds of residents of Kiunga village took to the streets to protest over a power outage in the area.
Na muda mrefu wa miezi 5 bila stima. Hiyo stima wakati tunauliza Kenya Power wakuje, hawakuji. Ile wanakuja kufanya ni kukuja kutuletea mabill ya mapesa mingi.
Residents and business people using the Ndonyo Sabuk Bridge linking Kiambu and Machakos counties have decried losses after the bridge collapsed 2 months ago, making it a challenge for them to cross the dangerous river. Kasi Chenamasha, Prime Edition.
This World Blood Donor Day, join us in celebrating 20 years of giving. Thanks to blood donors, I'm here today. Your donations gave me a second chance.
This won't work. This is complete garbage. This guy thinks I'm stupid, like I'm not thinking. Who? Hector Alhure. He was supposed to give me a full report on Melena's past, but all this says is that this woman is a living saint, can't even kill a fly. Oh, please. I have to take the risk. I'm not running. If I do, I will lose everything.
You lost your mind? How could you spend the night with your father's worst enemy?
This message is brought to you by the Kenya Blood Transfusion and Transplant Service.
Kesho ndio yule mjinga atajua kwamba mimi Mbura ni kijana wa chifu Dani na kiongozi mtarajiwa wa kisiwa hiki cha Funze.
Hasira ni ujinga, Mbura. Wewe ni muuaji. Umenisikia? Kwa nini kumzamisha Mbura baharini?
Ni nani kati yenu anataka kuachia mwenzake uongozi?
Sports News was brought to you by Mozart Bet.
You can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahome and welcome to Prime Edition Sport. The Athletics Kenya National Trials for the World Under-20 Championships will be held at the Nyayo National Stadium from the 26th to the 28th of this month. Athletics Kenya has issued stringent measures to ensure that only athletes in that age category compete at the event. The top 2 athletes in each category will make Team Kenya, that will fly the country's flag at the World Under-20 Championships to be held in Lima, Peru from the 27th to the 31st of August this year. Athletics Kenya hopes to select a team that will better their predecessors' performance in Cali, Colombia 2 years ago, where Kenya managed to collect a total of 10 medals comprising 3 gold, 3 silver and 4 bronze.
Through Benny Chilenge.
Belay, he looked gone to me a couple of laps ago. He's working hard. Yahune then it is, digging in deep. 50 metres to go for the Ethiopian.
Now, the second and last batch of the men's and women's national beach volleyball teams arrived safely in Morocco for the Paralympic Games qualifiers. The winners of both genders will automatically qualify for the Olympic Games slated for next month in Paris, France. The contingent comprises of Gaudentia Makoha and Edward Kibet, together with physiotherapist Antoinette Litiyama, coaches Sally Wanjala, Ibrahim Udur, and team manager Washira Gatweria. Naomi To, Brian Melly, and Nedi Kilimo already arrived in Morocco. To will be reuniting with her teammate Gaudentia Makoha for the qualifiers, having teamed up back in 2019 when they won a silver medal during the African Games in Rabat, Morocco. And Hans Becking and Duncan Ruto emerged winners of the 3rd edition of the Cycling Loop Safari Gravel Series, hosted at Hell's Gate National Park in Naivasha. Hans Becking from the Netherlands won the 120 kilometers elite race, clocking a time of 3 hours, 12 minutes, 59 seconds, while Lucas Baum from Germany took 2nd position and Chad Hager from the US was 3rd. Duncan Ruto won the 60-kilometer race and was followed by Swarby and Jeffrey Kariuki in 2nd and 3rd positions, respectively. The winners in the elite 120-kilometer pocketed a cash prize of 20,000 shillings. The best 3 teams received 125,000 shillings, 100,000 shillings, and 70,000 shillings in prize money. The event was witnessed by a turnout of over 467 of both elite and recreational cyclists from different nationalities across Africa, Europe, and the United States. Manchester United will open the 2024-2025 English Premier League season campaign on the first day against Fulham, following the fixtures released today. United will host Fulham at Old Trafford on the 16th of August, 2 days before champions Manchester City begin their title defence against Chelsea. United finished 8th in the EPL day. lot to follow up. And remember that Team Kenya leaves for Cameroon, and this is for the Confederation of African Athletics Senior African Athletics Championships, starting from the 21st to the 26th of June. And also Chipu, the under-20 rugby team, will be heading to Scotland. So there is a lot on the national team front. My name is Daniel Wahome. Back to you, Tom Mboya.
Sports News was brought to you by Mozart Bet.
You can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Very well, thank you, Daniel Wahome, for that update in the world of sports. Now, before we let you go, in 1972, when the Anti-Tank Ground Missile Battalion, a sub-unit of the 76th Battalion, was established in Gilgil, Nakuru, Sergeant Retired Reverend Reuben Kibiwot was one of the soldiers who served in the new unit as a storeman. Kibiwot had previously served as a paratrooper for 7 years from 1972. Ben Troy Njue caught up with the military veteran in his home in Gilgil, and we leave you now with this week's edition of Military Tales. My name is Tom Mboya. On behalf of the entire Prime Edition team, enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.
We travel to Gilgil, Nakuru County, where we meet one Kenya Army veteran who served in the Army for a total of 35 years.
Zaliwa mwaka wa 1953 mwezi wa 11 tarehe 23 huko Pokot ya Magharibi, sehemu inayoitwa Sigor, division ambayo inaitwa Muino, huko mahali panaitwa Mtal Kapsirat.
He underwent his early education in Tamgal and Nasoko primary schools.
1971 tukiwa tuko likizo ile ya kwenda watoto wako likizo, nikasema si hata mimi naweza jaribu jeshi, kwa sababu nilikuwa mkimbiaji. Basi nilipata nafasi nikaandikwa. That was August 27, 1971, na tukapatiwa makaratasi ya kuja kuripoti. Nikakuja kuripoti FTC Lanet wakati huo mwezi wa 10.
After initial military training, Kibiwot further studied storekeeping and joined the stores department. He later on joined the paratrooper brigade in 1972, becoming one of the few post-independence paratroopers.
That was 1972, mwezi wa 4 na mwezi wa 5. Basi nikawa mwanamwafuli kutoka 72 mwezi wa 6 hadi 1979 mwezi wa 4. Nikatoka hapo kukawa kikosi ingine mpya iliundwa na ofisa ambaye alitoka hapo kwa para, inaitwa ATGM au Anti-Tank Ground Missile. Basi nikaenda huko nikapatiwa nafasi. Nilikuwa bado sijapewa madaraka yoyote nilipokuwa kwa mwafuli. So kikosi mpya ilipofunguliwa nikachukuliwa kwa sababu nilikuwa nimequalify kama storeman. Basi nikapewa kusimamia hiyo kikosi kama storeman. Nikapewa madaraka, nikapewa corporal July na January 1980 nikapewa sergeant. Basi nikaendelea na kazi ya stores hadi nilipo retire kwa hiyo kikosi ya missile 1994 mwezi wa 10, nikiwa nimeserve miaka 23.
After 3 years out of the army, Kibiwot made a comeback to the force as a constabulary in 1997.
Miaka mitatu ikiisha nikarudi tena kwa jeshi, mahali kwa contract ingine inaitwa constabulary. Hapo nikastay kutoka mwaka huo wa 1997. Nilikuja 1997 October, ndio nilirudi kwa constabulary. Tena nikaingia kazi ile ya profession yangu ya stores. Nikafanya kazi kwa miaka 12. Nikawa nimepata madaraka ile yangu, tena nimefikia ile cheo ya sergeant.
Reverend Kibiwot, who was lucky to serve under 3 presidents, started his spiritual journey in the military who then allowed him to study theology while still serving.
Nilikuwa nimeokoka 1982 kwa jeshi. Na nilikaa hivyo na wokovu na nikawa mtu napenda kazi ya kuhubiri. So wakati nilirudi hii ya pili nilipata nafasi, nikauliza kwa jeshi. Bishop yangu aliponipa barua baraka kwa chaplains ya jeshi, walinisaidia. Nikaweza kwenda kusoma chuo cha Biblia, nikapata diploma, na hiyo ndio iliniwezesha kukuwa ordained baada ya kuretire 2009 kwa constabulary.
He takes us down memory lane, citing the growth of the military from the 1970s till today.
Wakati wetu sheria zilikuwa bado iko na ukoloni kwa wingi. Iko mambo mengine masaa ya kulala ni namna hiyo, ilikuwa mambo tofauti, lakini saa hii unaona watu walitoka wanaishi nje. Kuna equipments. Hata wakati hiyo kabla yangu ya kutoka 2009 kuna equipment zile tulikuwa natumia. Wakati yangu nilikuta bunduki inaitwa SLR G3 ikakuja. Sasa kuna vitu vingi imekuja ambazo zimefanya kazi ya kijeshi na kwa rahisi. Isipokuwa kile ninajua training ya jeshi imekuwa kali, sio kama hapo awali.
One of his most memorable moments in service was a close encounter with a lioness in Gar Batula during one of their military training exercises.
Tulienda mahali naitwa Gar Batula ndani huko. Tulipopumzika, kumbe mahali tumepumzika ni mahali nyumba ya simba. Na hii simba imesaa na watoto kidogo. Ile simba wakati tumeweka mizigo yetu chini ilinguruma na ikatoa mchanga hivi. Ile mchanga ilitolewa na simba, ilinifunika nikasirai. Wale wengine waliwaja bunduki na mapochi, watu wakatoroka. So mimi nilisikia asubuhi imekuwa mwangaza kidogo. Kurudi naangalia hapa bunduki, naona radio. Sasa watu walienda wapi? So what I did, nilifukua chini, nikachukua bunduki ya wenzangu yote na radio, nikaweka nikafunika. So nikatembea mpaka kitu saa 5, nikasikia ruru, kajua hiyo ni helicopter. Mimi nikachukua ile very pistol, nikapika juu white. Sasa ndege ikajua iko watu wapi. Hiyo ndio ilikuwa kitu ya kunistua kwa jeshi, kwa sababu sikuwahi kukutana na simba namna hiyo.
He notes the security challenges that have necessitated new war strategies.
Wakati wetu ile training tulikuwa nafanya ilikuwa inafaa kwa wakati huo, lakini naona dunia imebadilika. Mambo ya Al-Shabaab, sijui Al-Qaeda, tangu hizi vitu imekuja, imelazimisha jeshi kubadilisha, na sio ya Kenya peke yake.
The former paratrooper shares some of the lessons he picked up in the army.
Unaona, kujitegemea. Mimi sina mali ya wasasi yangu. Hizi vitu yote niko nayo ni zangu. Nilikuwa na wazee walitufundisha ya kwamba ukipata 10 kula 8 wacha 2. Ilikuwa na train hivyo, na wengi wale ambao walifuata raha wako shida hata kwa uzeni yao, lakini yule alishika hiyo. Kile ningekuambia tu ni kwamba jeshi ilinifunza kujitegemea.
The Reverend credits his family as his pillar of strength.
Mimi nilioa mke wangu wa kwanza akaaga, Mungu akamuita. Nikaoa mke ambaye niko nayo sasa. Nina watoto 5 yangu biological children, na watoto 2 ambao ni adopted.
Other than preaching, Reverend Kibiwot is a farmer, a businessman, and security consultant who likes exercising to relax.
Baada ya kuretire nilipewa kanisa, nimehubiri. 2011 nikakuwa ordained reverend. Hadi wa sasa bado ninahubiri nikiwa na katika umri ya mwaka 71. Mimi niliunda kampuni yangu ya security. Mimi ni director. Na bado ninaendelea na hiyo kazi. Mimi ni mtu ya kutembea, napenda walk. Wakati nimekaa hakuna kitu hapa, naweza toka hapa nisunguke niende mpaka center nikiwa na tracksuit. Nisunguke nirudi hapa kwangu. Hiyo tu. Nirudi kwa TV yangu, kwa Biblia.
Having served as a soldier for more than 30 years, the former officer reminds Kenyans to remain peaceful and harmonious at all times.
Ukitaka hata Kenya hii develop zaidi na iweze kufanya hawa wengine majirani waweze kujua ya kwamba amani ni kitu ya dhamana, na haiwezi kukuja tu peke yake. Watu wachunge ulimi, watu wachunge matendo, watu wachunge namna ya kukaa na kuishi. You can live anywhere, you can live with anybody as long as unajua kile kitu ambayo unataka katika maisha, na ujue kile mwingine anataka, awe Msomali, awe mtu ya Ethiopia, awe Muganda, kile wewe unataka hata yeye anataka. Kwa hivyo kitu kizuri ningesema kwa Wakenya wachunge amani kila mmoja.
For Military Tales, I'm Ben Troy Njue.
Maji ni uhai, maji ni haki yako.
Je, unajua kwamba wizi wa maji ni uhalifu unaoathiri sisi sote? Hata hivyo, wateja wengi wa maji husalia kimya bila kufahamu madhara yake.
What do you want?
Wewe. Mbosire gwe. Usinjaribu kutumia njina yangu in vain gwe. Atito.